Brought to you by the San Luis Obispo County Office of Education and the SLOCO Arts Collaborative. You're back with Touching Bass, and I've got some fun new scales to teach you today. But first, we're going to tune our basses. Do you remember how to do that? So I've got a low B string here on the bottom. Want to make sure that lines up here with my tuner. Next we've got an E. Suppose I can turn my sound on. There we go. Now the A string. That sounds nice. There's the D. That one's in tune. And my G string. All good. Now here is a quick little review of the notes on the staff when it's bass clef, because we're going to be talking about that and using that a lot today while I'm showing you the scales on as sheet music. So soak this all in and feel free to come back to this and use it as a cheat sheet. Remember the minor scale? So let's do the minor scale in A sharp minor, also known as B flat minor. Right there. Nice. Here is the scale written down for you in bass clef. As you can see, for this particular scale, every note is sharpened, which you can see here by my key signature, which is A sharp natural minor. I also have at the bottom where you would put your fingers for the piano. It sometimes really helps to visualize that, at least for me. On that little piano image that you see, the numbers I have written on the lines just under the black keys, that means I'm talking about a black key there. So for that 1, I'm talking about that black key, which is an A sharp. And then the 2 means I'm talking about a white key there. So again, with the 3 and the 4, those are black keys. The 5 is a white key. The 6, 7, and 8 are all black keys there that I'm referring to. And I'll use that kind of strategy throughout. And just to clarify, when you often will see scales written down, it will just be ascending because it's implied that it would be the same notes going down. So you will hear me play it ascending and descending on the bass just to train your ear, and I might write it down just as ascending here. But sometimes out in the world you may see the scale written down for you as ascending plus descending. So I want to get you used to seeing both of those. Let's go through the notes because I wrote them down for you. First we start with A sharp, and that's what we would expect here with the A sharp minor scale. And next we have a B sharp, which is a little weird, right? Because on the piano we're taught that this note here is a C, and you can see that at the bottom. And you would be correct there. That is the same pitch as a C, but in this context of this key, it's a B sharp. And the simplest way to explain this is that all of our minor and major scales need every letter of the note alphabet. So we need an A, B, C, D, E, F, G in some form or another, like sharpened or flattened in some way, so that functionally we get one of every letter. We do this because that's how we read it. Our lines and our spaces on the staff correspond to those letters. Because of this, you can also end up with a C flat, which is also the same pitch as a B. You can also have an F flat, and what do you think that would be equal to? If you said in pitch it would be equal to an E, then you get a gold bass star. So next on here, I have a C sharp as my third degree of this scale. Then I have a D sharp, E sharp, which also is that same kind of thing with the B sharp, because an E sharp is an F in a lot of senses, at least when it comes to pitch. And here it is an E sharp in terms of function of this scale. So after that E sharp, you have an F sharp, and then a G sharp, and then we get right back to our tonic note, which is A sharp. Now I must tell you, A sharp minor is not really considered the most useful key for composition because everything is sharp on the page. That can get a little confusing. Most of the time you'll hear people say B flat minor because that key instead has 5 flats on the page. You don't have to deal with a B sharp or an E sharp, which can be confusing for a lot of people. So here is B flat minor. And as you can see, the notes on the piano are the same, and they'd be the same as well on the bass. So when a note has the same pitch but different names like A sharp and B flat, we call them inharmonic. B flat minor scale is the inharmonic equivalent to A sharp minor. It's the same notes on the piano and the same notes on the bass, but you really just conceptualize them differently on the page and technically within music theory. The B flat minor scale starts on the B line of the staff instead of that bottom space that we know means A. This difference in location makes a big difference for the rest of the scale. So now we don't have to deal with a B sharp or an E sharp, and instead we can just conceptualize those pitches as good old C and F. And remember the harmonic minor scale? Well, let's do that in B flat as well. It's almost the same, just a raised 7th note. Now here is B flat harmonic minor, and as you can see on the 7th scale degree, the A flat has now become an A. It has been raised a semitone, and the way you show that is that little sign. I think of it with like an L with an upside down L attached to it, and that's how you indicate a natural note instead of a flat or a sharp note. If we were to reconceptualize B flat harmonic minor into its inharmonic equivalent, then we would get this here, which again, the piano notes / the pitches are the same. It is the key signature and the way that you would write these notes down that becomes very different. You can see based on the staff here that every note is sharp except that G has a little X next to it. So we know originally in this, in the natural minor key of A sharp, we know that we do have a G sharp. So we're raising the 7th here. So we get a G double sharp. And how we indicate that is putting a little X to the left of the note. And if you're also just writing down like G and then you put an X to it, that means G double sharp. So you're raising that 2 semitones or 2 half steps, also equal to 1 full step. You can also write 2 sharp signs next to the G, and people will also understand you're saying G double sharp. We've essentially been going over these signs within context and how you would see them in sheet music, but I do just want to clearly show you what each means. So if you see that little number sign, that means you are going to use the sharp version of that note. So if we are thinking about G, if you see that sharp sign, then you're using G sharp, which is raised a half step, and it's a black key on the piano. And the little B sign, you're gonna use the flat version of that note. So in the case of B flat, you would lower it 1 semitone and use the little black note there if you were using the piano. So with that X, as we just went over, that is a double sharp. So you're raising it by 2 semitones or 2 half steps. In the case of G, then we would start calling the G double sharp what we normally think of as A on the piano. But in the case of one certain key, it'll be a G double sharp. So with double flat, you just use 2 little flat signs, and it's the same as double sharp, just inverse. You're lowering it by 2 semitones or 2 half steps. So in the case of G, a G double flat would be the white key on the piano that we normally refer to as F. But just in the case of whatever kind of piece of music is, it would be a G double flat. And the thing at the bottom is a natural sign. So that will make notes their natural version. So if you see that next to the G, then that means you're using G natural. Here's a little cheat sheet that tells you what to do when you see each sign to the left of a note. Feel free to return to this if you ever need any help. Now, let's do the E flat natural minor scale, what we also just refer to as the minor scale. Here is E flat natural minor, and with this one you can see the key signature reveals it has 6 flats as opposed to B flat minor, which only has 5 flats. So it's a little bit easier to deal with, but with this one we have, of course, starting with E flat, our second degree is F. That's great, we love that. The third degree is G flat, the fourth degree is A flat, the fifth degree is B flat, and for the sixth degree we have a C flat, which I know is a little bit funky. I mentioned before that there's potential for that sometimes. And pitch-wise, the C flat is what we would recognize as the B on the piano. But here, essentially, we are going to have like a B flat, and then it's 1 semitone up, and we would just call that a C flat in this case. So here's B flat, and then C flat. This is our usual C, but we're flattening it, so boom, there's C flat. But then of course, when we're looking at like say A minor, we go A, B, C. Hope that's clear. The next scale degree we have is the 7th, is D flat, and then we're back to our tonic, which is E flat again. And here it is also at the bottom, how you would play it on the piano. Now the E flat harmonic minor scale, which we just went over. Nice. Good review. Here is the harmonic minor scale in E flat. And it's very similar to the natural minor scale, but of course we have the 7th degree, which here, in this case, is a D natural instead of a D flat. So we put a little natural sign to the left of the D, which is a sign I showed you earlier. That just makes us deal with a D from now on, just in this scale. Now I know you're ready to learn something new. I've got a new minor scale to teach you. So you know the natural minor scale and you know the harmonic minor scale, but there is another minor scale, and it's called the melodic minor scale. This one is funky. It starts out the same as the natural and harmonic minor scales with the same, but now after this 5th scale degree we have a raised 6th and a raised 7th. There's my do. And now going back down, we lower those raised 6th and 7th degrees. And it goes back to the natural minor scale. So going up, it has a major 6th and a major 7th in it. But going down, it has a minor 6th and a minor 7th. So yes, it's different going down versus going up. It's one of those interesting scales that way. So this is the A melodic minor scale. Here's my starting pitch. course you knew I had to write it down for you. I am going to make sure you get so good at reading sheet music. So here it is, the melodic minor scale in A, and I've written it down for you in bass clef. So going up as I have it here, of course it's very similar to the A natural minor scale until you get to that F sharp. So that is a raised sixth there, and we put a little sharp sign next to it to indicate it is being raised. And similar with that seventh degree, the G sharp, that one is also getting raised. On the next section just below it, I have put the descending scale, and we have to indicate that we are making G and F natural again. So that's why we put those little natural signs next to them. And hopefully my handwriting isn't too bad for you to get. But within the same context of a bar in this case, since we're not separating out our scale in bars, I do need to indicate for you that we are lowering those notes back to their natural versions on that second portion. And if there's anything that's confusing for you right now, don't worry about it, because we're going to come back to this and get way more in depth in this whole thing. All you need to know is that the melodic minor scale raises the sixth and the seventh going up, and then it lowers them back down as the scale is descending, so that the descending version of the scale is the same as the natural minor scale. Let's do it in A sharp melodic minor. Here is A sharp melodic minor, and it's got the 7 sharps there as the key signature. So we know every note is sharp in this one. So when we do the melodic minor ascending, of course, we still have to raise the 6th and 7th degrees. So we put those little X's there to indicate double sharpening them. And then when we descend, we turn those back into the sharp versions of the note, which is just lowering them back to what they would be in just regular natural minor case. And I just wrote out B flat melodic minor just for you to gain some experience. So this one's gonna be different conceptually, instead of say 7 sharps, now you're dealing with 5 flats, which is conceptually a little bit easier, I'd say. When ascending, we're going to use the natural versions of the 6th and 7th scale degree, because before we had the flat versions, which just means that they were lower by a semitone from its natural state. So now we have the natural versions of the notes. And when we descend, we flatten those degrees again. So in the descending, of course, they're the 2nd and 3rd note you see on that bottom staff, but still they're the 6th and 7th scale degrees. How about E flat melodic minor? Great job. Now how about we do F sharp melodic minor? Here is F sharp melodic minor, and if we take a look at the key signature here, we know it has 3 sharps, which indicate that this key is either A major or it's F sharp minor. And I just told you it's F sharp minor, so you know that. And you know based on where it's starting, which is the little space below the line, that's your F space. So with this one going up, of course, we have the raised 6th and 7th, and it turns our D and E into D sharp and E sharp. So they were D and E natural, now they're D sharp and E sharp. And descending, we're going to make those natural again. So we've put our little natural sign and we are good to go. I've got some other scales for you to learn, but don't worry, they're not difficult, and these don't change ascending and descending like the melodic minor scale. And they're actually based off the standard major and minor scales, just less notes actually. So they're kind of easier in that way. First, I'm going to start with the major pentatonic scale in A. Yeah. You heard that right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oop, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 for my do. So you heard that right. It's got 5 unique notes, with the 6th note being the octave. And here is the major pentatonic scale. This is how you do it on the piano. Of course, my 1 and 6 there I've scribbled around just to show you that that's my tonic note. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm not sure if that was in key, but it sounded pretty close. And here up at the top with the bass clef, I have got my 3 sharps, so we know it's either in the key of A major or F sharp minor, and it starts with the A, so must be A major. And it's got all 6 of those notes. So when you're counting, you can count to 6. It's basically the major scale minus the 4th and 7th scale degrees. It's got the root, the major 2nd interval, the major 3rd, perfect 5th, major 6th, octave. This scale is going to have a lot of major personality. Haha, I have puns for days. A lot of melodies of your favorite songs utilize these scale degrees of whatever key they're in. It's also great for coming up with fun, happy, cool bass lines and really nice melodies. So here's a picture of the shape, and I can do this shape anywhere on the neck. It just depends on where your starting pitch is, and then you just go from there. So let's do E flat major pentatonic scale. Here's E flat pentatonic major scale. As you can see, it starts with the E flat, then we have F, G, B flat, and C. There are 3 flats in the E flat major scale, and because this is the shorter pentatonic version, there's only 2 flats. For comparison purposes, here I've written down for you the B flat major pentatonic scale, and no tricks here with this one. It starts on a flat note, which is the B flat, and the rest of the notes in the pentatonic major scale are natural notes. So that makes things easy. So we just start on a black key on the piano, and the rest are the white keys. Let's do the C major pentatonic scale. So grab my C here. Going up and going down. I can do that with any of my C's. I have another C here. Here's the C major pentatonic scale that I wrote down for you, and this is it ascending, and of course it's the same descending. It starts on my little C space there and goes up, basically taking over all the white keys except for F and B. And if you didn't know, at the very top of the staff, if you draw a line and then put a note there, well, that's a C. Here's that major pentatonic shape again. I wanted to explain in case it wasn't clear. I drew it as if the 5 strings are my bass because I have a 5-string bass. So at the very bottom there, I've got a B. And then the next one is E, and then your A string, and then D and G. So if you just have a 4-string bass, then you would just ignore that bottom B line. But in this case, you can really start this shape anywhere. And the little black circle that I've filled in, well, that represents your starting point or your tonic note. So I can start with that anywhere. And my starting note, it will be that kind of major pentatonic scale. So if my starting note is F sharp, then it's the F sharp major pentatonic scale, and my second note is a whole step away, and then we move on to the next string, and we've got that major third in there, and then we do a whole step and a half step apart. So it's got 2 spaces in between. And then on to the next string, and that's a major 6th. And the note after that is also another half step plus a whole step. And there's the octave. So that's all the notes for that scale. So both of those filled in dots are my tonic notes, and my starting points and my ending points. I taught you how to read tab as well, so in the case of tab, this should make perfect sense. You can get fun with it. The next scale I'm going to teach you is the minor pentatonic scale. So here it is with A as my 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's similar to the major pentatonic with those 5 unique notes plus the octave. So you can count it as 6. This one is like the minor scale minus the 2nd and the 6th scale degrees. So it's got the root note, minor 3rd, perfect 4th, perfect 5th, minor 7th, and the octave. It's a really cool scale that's used in a lot of rock and R&B. This is one of my favorite scales, the A minor pentatonic. It's super simple, all natural notes, starts with A, then you got a C, D, E, G, and right back to A. So it's very similar to the minor scale, it's just missing your B note and your F note. And actually consists of the same notes as the C major pentatonic, just in a different order and with a different tonic. So that's something to clock for the future for sure, that the minor pentatonic and its relative major pentatonic consist of the same notes, just different orders. And so at the bottom you can see that the piano, it's all white keys. We love that. / me, I love that. So there you are. It's super simple, this one. So here's a picture of that shape, and you can do that anywhere on your bass. So you know the deal. Here's the shape. The little black dots are starting point and ending point. And so from wherever you start, then you go a minor 3rd or a half step plus a whole step away. Then you move on to the next string, and it's a perfect 4th there from our starting point. And then you move a whole step away, and you got the perfect 5th there. Then move to the next string up, and that is a minor 7th away from our tonic note. And then you move a whole step up, and we're at our octave. And that's the shape that you can do anywhere for the minor pentatonic scale. So let's do an example. Let's do it in C sharp. And here is C sharp minor pentatonic scale. The entire key of C sharp minor has 4 sharps, and in just the pentatonic minor scale, there's only 3 sharps. And now in D, so you can get the hang of it. And that's obviously ascending and descending. And this is the D minor pentatonic scale. D minor itself only has one flat in the key. It is the relative to F major, if you remember that. And note that as the scale ascends, you do have to start writing in lines. And when you have a line and the note is on that, that's a C. And when you have a line and the note is in the space above that, that's a D. And here in the D minor pentatonic scale, we do have all natural notes. So that makes it pretty easy to deal with on the piano, all the white keys. There you go. And here it is in E, so you can get the hang of it. Here is E minor pentatonic, and this one's great too because it's all natural notes. The key of E minor does have one sharp in it. Its relative key is, do you remember which one? G major. So G major also has one sharp in it. Aren't these getting so much easier now that we did all those hard ones first? And now in G. Here's G minor pentatonic. G minor itself has two flats in it, but the G minor pentatonic only has one flat in it, and that is B flat. A really cool thing about keys in these pentatonic scales is whenever you're in a certain key, like say E major, obviously you can use the E major pentatonic scale, but also the major pentatonic scales of the 4 and the 5 chords are fully within the key. So this is really good to know for shape knowledge and for soloing purposes. And if the song goes to the 4 chord, now you know you're safe to use this scale with the 4 as your root. And the same goes for things on the 5 chord. All these notes are still within the key of E major. All within the key of E major. So just to illustrate, here's my E major scale. All of these notes are available to me within the key. So within E major is E major pentatonic and A major pentatonic and B major pentatonic. Hopefully that's not too confusing. Now if you're in F sharp minor, here's the minor pentatonic scale, but I can also do the minor pentatonic for F sharp's 4th, which is B, and then F sharp's 5th, which is C sharp. So the song goes to the 5, then feel free to use C sharp minor pentatonic because those notes are in the key. And if it goes to the 4th, then I can use the B minor pentatonic. All of these notes are available to me and will sound good when appropriate, of course. Depending on what chord I'm on, I can use that chord's minor pentatonic scale for soloing purposes or for bass lines. Like I've said before, at the downbeat of the chord, I'll do the root of the chord or the 1, and then there's freedom to do what I want within the scale. Now you've learned 3 new scales today and lots more about keys and soloing and what you can do within a song, all because of these scales, because these are the building blocks really to all of the things that we're going to do later. Anyway, stay tuned for next time.
Ba-dum, 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 boom, boom, ba-dum, boom, 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 boom.